Hello, and we're at AQS Quilt Week at Spring Paducah, and I'm here with another winner. Sherry Rogers Harrison is the winner of second place in the large quilts, movable machine quilted category, and that's sponsored by Tin Lizzie. And what a beautiful quilt.
Oh, thank you.
And you know what? Being a cross-stitcher and a painter and a quilter, and you have included all three of those things in this one quilt.
I think I covered it all, Bonnie.
Let's start and tell them what you did first.
Well, first I had to find a fabric for the backing so that I could get a perfect 1/4 inch spacing for this quilt because it's based on a grid.
And so you quilted it then on the lines of that fabric?
I did. I quilted it upside down. I had the backing on the front and the front on the back.
So that means you had to have your tension on your machine just perfect, didn't you?
And I used silk thread in the bobbin so that I could have silk thread on the top.
You had to think through this process.
I did.
Okay, so then once you got the lines on here and they're all quilted, this whole grid, then what happened next?
Then I mixed up a color of yellow that I liked, and I just used a variety of paints that I use quite often, and I painted the whole thing. I used a large paintbrush, and I loaded it onto a hand quilting frame, and I painted the whole thing yellow. So it was white fabric to begin with, and it was prepared for dye fabric, which is a very tightly woven fabric.
Right.
It doesn't, the paint will
It'll
adhere.
stick to it really well. And is that a paint that you use with a medium?
No, this is just direct. I thinned it down a little bit.
Like a textile paint?
Yeah, it's a textile paint.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now it's yellow. Then what happened?
Then I found a pattern that I wanted to transfer to this grid, and got permission from the artist and just followed like a cross-stitch pattern, like you'd put a little X here and you skip 2 and you put a little X here.
And so you, on the yellow fabric, you just went in and made a mark with what?
With a friction pen,
Okay.
I made a little X.
And so that's where you came back and painted blue.
Correct. So I would do one section at a time. I started with the top, and when I was done making all the little X's, I cross-referenced. I had to make sure it was all correct, because once you do the blue, it's
you're done.
You're done. So then I would paint all the X'd little squares, and after that, then I outlined with a black gel pen.
And you can see that here.
Yep.
You can look
and
really
that,
closely.
Crisp. It just makes it very defined, and very
It also
crisp.
probably, that's a real easy way to even up any lines that were just a little bit off with the paintbrush.
Exactly. And
yes.
sometimes I used like a 1/8 inch brush, and sometimes on the bigger sections, then I would use like a 1/4 inch brush and just fill that entire Xing in.
Well, now, so that wasn't enough.
No.
Now you had to go in and do cross stitches in all the empty yellow spaces.
I did, and beads.
Well, and the cross stitches are only stitched through the top layer.
That's correct, with metallic thread, which is kind of difficult to work with. But
yes.
Gosh, it was just, I did that on the hand quilting frame, and I turned the TV or the music on, and just cross stitch my entire day away.
And then some of the areas that you put the beads are the closed-in areas where you just added a little interest in there.
Yes, yeah, just a little bit more sparkle.
Well, so let's talk about how many hours or years or months that it took to make this.
Well, I spent a little bit over a year creating this quilt. A little bit of time to develop, the process. I mean, I tried using a sewing machine foot, and you just didn't get the spacing correct. So that's when I got the bright idea to use a gingham on the back.
On the back side.
To get that spacing right.
Well, and so, would you do another one like
this?
I would. Would you?
I would.
Yeah. I bet it was pretty therapeutic.
It was, and I'm just one of those people that really enjoy complex designs, and so I was in my happy place.
Yeah.
There were times where I was like, okay, is it over yet? But it was worth it.
Well, and I bet that time would have been when you were having to quilt that grid, and it was not really showing up anything yet.
Right.
A lot of hours
Yep.
just quilting.
Yep. So I made this label. This is actually cross-stitch fabric, and the cross-stitch is it's minuscule. It's like pinhead size. And I did all that with the metallic thread.
Yes.
And I did the blue, I spelled the words and got the spacing right, but I had to do this like 3 or 4 times because my spacing wasn't right, you know, and if you notice, I spelled my name wrong. But after...
You have an extra R.
I have an extra R.
Well, you know what? You know it's yours.
Yes, but it turned out pretty good. I'm really
And what
pleased
you may
with
not realize is that this whole gold background is all probably 32 stitches to the inch.
It's very
grid
small.
for cross stitch.
Yeah.
And here you can see a good picture of the grid on the background that she quilted both ways on that grid to create the grid for the front.
And there's a ton of gingham fabric out there, you know, that you could use any size, you know, up to an inch, you know, a half inch, 1/4 inch. This is 1/4 inch grid that I used on this quilt.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you
on
very
winning
much.
second place here.
Very exciting.
And we hope that we'll see some quilts from you in the near future. Go to QuiltWeek.com and click on the contest button. And if we don't see a quilt, we hope we'll see you at an AQS Quilt Week.